Today, House Republicans joined those in the Senate in passing a budget resolution that is the next step towards the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, popularly known as Obamacare. Only 9 Republicans crossed the aisle to side with Democrats against the measure. All Democrats, by the way, voting against it in the House. You're seeing there the list of Republicans who, for one reason or another, did the right thing and voted against the repeal there. No Democrats voted for the resolution that would move forward on repealing the Affordable Care Act. Top Republican leaders are also saying they plan to move to replace Obamacare along the same track when they do finally come up with something to replace it using this sort of budget reconciliation process, but are still struggling to come up with the details on how it will work. Yeah. I wish we could be involved in that struggle and know what some of those details might be. Even if they don't end up being in the final plan, we don't know much. But the House making this move today was, we had a little prelude to it earlier today when first thing in the morning, Donald Trump rolled over, picked up his phone and tweeted this, the Unaffordable Care Act will soon be history. He didn't put sad. That's good.
Is that 3:33? That's at least like Pacific time.
6:33. Yeah, his time. Okay. So look, I mean, we at the beginning of the week we thought they don't have the votes in the Senate. It's not going to happen. Or at least that's what some people were saying. And then in 2 days, you have the Senate making the first step, the House making the first step. There are many more steps that still have to come, and they can't get rid of all aspects of the Affordable Care Act in this way, just the budget-related ones. But they're making progress. It's not taking long. He's not even president yet.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with a repeal bill. Then the House is going to have to vote on it, and then the Senate's going to have to vote on it. It's going to take a little while because they don't really have the bill. But, you know, as promised, as delivered. And that's kind of, you know, where we are.
I don't know. Of course they're going to repeal it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, it might take a moment, but they'll.
It seemed to me a lot of Republicans didn't want to repeal until they had a replacement ready, but maybe that's not the case.
But they're never going to have a replacement ready, right? I mean, because they're not serious, but they're not serious about it, and they have there's no momentum to it. There's no one working on it because they don't care. So I don't mean that in some sort of conspiratorial, they're evil. I mean, they really don't care. They think the marketplace should determine this. And
they don't think there's a crisis.
They don't think there's a crisis, right.
So and didn't think that there was when the initial debate for the Affordable Care Act was happening. Or at least would sort of say it, but would never work on.
There are some Republicans, as evidenced by those 9 who voted against it, and that's obviously not very many, that sense there could be a political harm in this, and maybe in between now and the time that it actually has to be repealed and there's a vote in the Senate, that maybe that point will have been made to enough of them that there comes some replacement. But I just don't see who the Republicans would be who would dedicate themselves to the incredibly complicated process of coming up with an alternative and then putting together a coalition that enough Republicans support, because now anything is going to smack to some degree of socialized medicine in the crazy way that they have decided on that. I just don't see it. You know, people like that's why this Donald Trump about this nonsense to give Trump a chance. Hey, like we know
he
said
day one it would be repealed.
Right, but I mean we know who he is, and we know right now who they are, and this idea that somehow that Howard Baker and Richard Lugar and Alan Simpson are going to emerge from the shadows and return to the Senate and add some degree of normalcy to the Republican Party is an illusion, obviously. It's not going to happen.
You look at the 9, if maybe we put those names back up on the screen, those who voted against it, Justin Amash and Massey and McClintock. These are all very, very conservative members. I think almost all of them of the Freedom Caucus. So they're voting against this on the principle of budget and cost. They're not voting. They're not voting with their party. Exactly. They're not voting with their party for the same reasons, philosophical reasons. Yeah, this is a sort of a Freedom Caucus type of mini coup or statement that they're making. So when you look at the names on that list, it shows that there's not even a slight movement toward reasonability here, or reasonableness, and so, what Ben said is true. This is how Donald Trump works, and there's nobody cares. Nobody really cares on that side of the aisle because they don't see this as a crisis. And it's not that they just walk around. It's part of their philosophy. Keep government out of our business. And it's not that they think that every single one of them is in the pockets of big pharma. No, a lot of them are, but it goes deeper than that for a lot of these people, which is the philosophy that government should stay out of our business, and this is governmentalizing everything. And Donald Trump doesn't like Barack Obama, so to be able to go back and say, we got rid of Obamacare, he'll never call it the Affordable Care Act. Done.
And I mean, he promised at his press conference there's essentially simultaneously there will be a replacement. And it's interesting because the way that they're going about repealing this is through budget reconciliation, a process that was originally created to allow it to be a little bit easier to lower the deficit. Instead, they're going to be doing something that is going to massively increase the deficit, and they know that, which is why Senate Republicans voted this week to stop the Congressional Budget Office from even estimating how much repeal would end up costing. They're barring the CBO from actually being able to do that. Now, that leaves the non-budget parts of Obamacare, which are some of the most popular parts, like allowing kids to stay on their parents' health insurance until 26, coverage for pre-existing conditions, and all of that. Those, as we showed earlier in this week, are incredibly popular provisions. Pretty much only the mandate is unpopular. But despite that, when there were amendments in the Senate earlier this week to protect all of those individual characteristics, every one of those was voted down.
Yeah, these guys they're not serious about it. They're not serious about it. It's obviously they're not serious about it. Look who they are. But what surprised me, I saw the poll, was that almost everything was around 80%, except pre-existing conditions, which was at 69%. Which, I don't know, who wants to deny someone health coverage because they have a pre-existing condition?
The drug companies,
people.
the insurance companies.
Right, so 31% of the people they polled work for the insurance companies? That seems
they're growing.
It seems a high number. Yeah, no, I know that. I know who wants to do it in life. I can't imagine who's polled and is like, no, man, you got leukemia. You can't get health coverage. Well, you'll just have to die.
You know, or you ate too much. You're fat on your own. I shouldn't have to pay your diabetes coverage because you ate too much.
Yeah, which is short-sighted considering the likelihood that almost everyone watching this in America will end up with diabetes. You should think about that. But yeah, look, it's not impossible that this can be stopped, although I agree with Ben. I think it's going forward. It's going to happen. And we talked about this before the election. Like, there is a very real cost. That cost is not just in dollars, the hundreds of millions of dollars that this will add to the budget deficit, but also in lives. And you can look at different estimates, and they disagree about how many lives this will cost if there's no replacement. But the most conservative estimates are thousands of Americans will die every single year as a result of losing their health insurance. And we're going to go back to a time when 16 to 25% of the country doesn't have health insurance and are just routinely dying from things that we could easily cure. That's the choice that we made earlier.
Yes, dying, but less dramatically than dying.
Going
equally as
bankrupt
important.
and being unhealthy.
Going bankrupt, being chronically sick, being sick for years and years and years and years, being unable to work because you're sick. Yeah, you don't die, you live 17 years, you're in bad shape because you can't get medicine that would make you feel better.
Something I learned in my reporting is actually a lot of the people that voted for Trump are in areas that are hardest struck by the opioid epidemic. And repealing Obamacare is going to really hurt a lot of those people.
Yeah. This notion is, as I continue to take as many of us have, I guess, a far dimmer view of our country and its greatness. That who would deny health care? It's one thing that we didn't provide it, right? It was bad enough that we didn't provide it. We provided it, and now we're going to take it away.
It's even worse.
It's just so much worse. Like, why would we take it away? You want to fix it? You want to tighten it up? We know the ways that would fix it, the ways that we got mad at Obama for not fixing it that way. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Some of the ways that, by the way, in an interview just a week ago, he was talking about maybe we need a public option.
Right. I mean, what Bernie Sanders was talking about, there's a great way. There's a way to fix it, and everyone thinks it would lower costs. But we're not going to do it. So we don't live in such a great country because we are very comfortable with people who have health coverage no longer having that health coverage because you don't know them.
If you want to see this happen, donate $3, $20, $27, whatever you can afford. You know that if everybody that's watching this video donated right now, we could stop the fundraising because we'd have enough. So go to tytnetwork.com/go. We'll wait while you make the donation. Thank you for doing it and for building a great new journalism team. And thanks for watching.